Yes, let's look at the synoptic gospel. What do we mean by the synoptic gospel? These are the gospel of Mark, Matthew, and Luke. Because they appear to have the same presentation and the content, yet they are different when you look at the time and the place plus the audience. But the message within themselves, they are similar. Somehow they are similar, somehow they are quite different. That's why they are called synoptic gospel, because of the similarities in the information which are accorded according to them. But when you look at the timing and the places where that information was carried out, makes it to be different. So here we look at the three gospels, the way how they were being recorded. These include the Gospel of Mark, which was written around 64 AD, and that was in Rome. Then the second one, that is the Gospel of Matthew. It was also written at around 70 AD, and it was in Jerusalem. And the third one, that is the Gospel of Luke. It was also written at around 80 AD. 80 AD in a place called Caesarea. The pronunciation is quite different. It depends on how the person pronounces it. So when you look at the three Gospels, they have got similarities in the presentation of the message about Jesus. And this is the summary which we have come out with to show why do we call them synoptic, because of the similarity in the content or the presentation of the message about Jesus Christ. So the first and foremost, all the three Gospels present the beginning of Jesus' earthly ministry. How Jesus started his ministry, what was it, what does it contain. So the three synoptic Gospels all have this information. And secondly, they all present Jesus' baptism by John the Baptist from river Jordan. So the message which is found in Luke, Mark, and Matthew, they all talk about John the Baptist being the one who baptized Jesus Christ. And this baptism was done in the river Jordan. More to that, they all present the temptation of Jesus in the desert by the devil, where Jesus encountered some kind of challenges with the devil in the desert when he was fasting for 40 days. And another similarity between the three synoptic gospel was the death of John the Baptist is also presented by all the three authors, how they talk about it. At least they give light like Luke gives light, but Matthew gives a detailed information about it. But it has already been pinpointed out. More to that, all the three Gospels also present the miracles performed by Jesus. We talk about so many miracles which Jesus performed. At least you find that there is a key point which has been given out about these miracles which were performed by Jesus. If we are to categorize them, you find that there are almost three categories or four categories or five categories, where we have the miracles of exorcism, we have the miracles of nature, we have the miracles of healing, we have the miracles of feeding, and the miracles of rising back to life. So you find that this information of the miracle in 3 Gospels has been brought out, and it is clearly stated that 3 men or 3 Gospels, the writers had some kind of similarity in bringing out these ideas. Then they also talk about the parables of the sower and the mustard seed as used by Jesus. So the 3 synoptic gospel have all these parables. The way how they are being stated. Not all the parables, but majorly these 2 that they cut across the 3 of them. We also have, they all report the sending out of the 12 disciples, meaning that they all give the detail about how Jesus sent the 12 disciples to go and preach the word of God, to go and act in his name, to go and perform the miracles in his name. So all this kind of information has been presented in the 3 Gospels. That is the Gospel of Mark, Matthew, and Luke. Then they also talk about the rejection of Jesus at the beginning of his ministry. That was in Nazareth, his home area, whereby Jesus was rejected by indigenous people. So this kind of mission also cuts across all these 3 synoptic. Then we also have the calming of the storm. It is also presented in the 3 Gospels. That's why here I tried to show categories of miracles. And this one falls under the nature miracle, the calming of the storm, whereby Jesus stopped the storm when the disciples made alarm by calling him when he was asleep. Another one is the question about fasting towards Jesus and his response to the Jewish religious leaders, whereby they questioned him why him and his disciples were not fasting yet. It was time for them to fast, and they expected that each and everybody was supposed to fast. But here we see Jesus himself not fasting, and his disciples also eating when they were supposed to fast. Jesus gave them the response to these religious leaders. Much as we have looked at the similarities between the 3 Gospels, they also have some illustration of the differences. What makes these Gospels to have different kind of information? When you look at the area of the miracle of healing of a woman with the blood flow is only recorded in the Gospel of Mark, whereby it gives a well-detailed and the heading is clearly stated. When you go to the Gospel of Matthew and Luke, it is not like that. Much as Luke also tried to bring in that kind of idea, but it is not the same as how the Mark has tried to record it. Under Luke, it is under the healing of Jairus' daughter, but it is not well headed like the way how it is well stated in the Gospel of Mark. They will also look at the parables of the 10 is only recorded in the Gospel of Matthew. The 10 girls, whereby the 5 were wise and the 5 were foolish. It is only in the Gospel of Matthew, not any other Gospel which records about it. It's not there. We also look at the Mark's Gospel presents 5 parables which are not part of the Matthew and Luke. And this one is only and only found in Mark's Gospel. We also look at the Lucas Gospel also try to present only 2 parables. Now these 2 parables are not also part of Matthew and Mark, but here they are only presented by Luke himself and other information about it. Otherwise, thank you for listening to me.